Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the New York Historical Society. I think there may be a few more people continuing to come in, but we'll get started and they'll find their seats. I'm Louise Mirrer, President and CEO at the Society, and tonight's program, the Lincoln Douglas Debates, is part of the Bernard and Irene Schwartz Distinguished Speakers Series. As always, I'd like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Schwartz for their great support, which enables us to bring so many fine historians and authors to the Society. Tonight's program examines the famous 1858 debates between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas. It's part of our 200th anniversary celebration of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The program will last about an hour, and it will include a question and answer session. Following the program, of course, as always, please do join us for a reception and book signing with our guests, whose books you may purchase for a special program night only discount in our museum shop. I do ask that you make sure your cell phones are off, and now I have a special treat, and treat for me and for you, and great honor, which is to introduce our wonderful trustee and esteemed Lincoln scholar, Louis E. Lerman, who will formally introduce our guests this evening. So please join me now in welcoming Louis E. Lerman to the stage.
Thank you, Louise. Maybe I'm going to take you with me on my book tour. You can make every introduction. We remember that Abraham Lincoln was known for his partnerships. His third and his last law partner was William H. Herndon, a man 10 years his junior. Our speakers tonight have formed another remarkable partnership. Some of it based on their research and their tireless work on the Lincoln-Herndon relationship. Like Mr. Lincoln and Billy Herndon, before the Civil War, one has a beard and one does not, as you will see. Doug Wilson and Rodney Davis have co-directed the Lincoln Study Center at Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, for more than a decade. They have created and overseen a number of major Lincoln research projects, including publication of Herndon's Informants, an extraordinary transcription of the many recollections gathered by Lincoln's partner, William Herndon. Had they done nothing else, their place among American historians and Lincoln scholarship would have been forever established. However, Rod and Doug also edited a new edition of Herndon's Lincoln, a major biography which William Herndon, Lincoln's law partner, and Jesse W. Wyke completed in the 19th century. Perhaps it is even more important that they organized and edited the transcription of much of the immense Lincoln collection at the Library of Congress. Now, thanks to them, on the internet. This is another great boon for writers who cannot spend days and weeks in the manuscript reading room of the Library of Congress. The importance of this deep primary research of Wilson and Davis can truly be appreciated when one sits down, as I did, to write a book about Abraham Lincoln. Mr. Lincoln's handwriting is very legible, but the same cannot be said for some of Lincoln's inscrutable contemporaries, such as Horace Greeley of New York. I can say without fear of contradiction that future generations of Lincoln scholars will bless Doug and Rod's work, probably forever. Rodney Davis is the Zoll Professor of History at Knox College, where he has been teaching history and ever since writing about Kansas and Illinois history. Among his publications are new editions of Ward Hill Lemon's biography of Abraham Lincoln, and Thomas Ford's classic, The History of Illinois. He is a prize-winning historian. Doug Wilson won the Lincoln Prize in 1999 for Honor's Voice, a book about the young Lincoln and the development of Mr. Lincoln's character. Doug's background as George A. Lawrence Distinguished Service Professor of English at Knox College was much in evidence when in 2007 he again won the Lincoln Prize, this time for Lincoln's sword, the presidency and the power of words. Knox College, where Doug and Rod teach, is the site where Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas met in the fifth of their 7 debates in October 1858. It was a cold and windy day in Galesburg, so the platform for the debate was moved next to the east side of the Knox building, now called Old Main. May I, Doug, Rod? To reach the stage, Lincoln and Douglas had to go out through a big window of the building. It is written that Lincoln, who had fewer than 12 months of formal schooling, climbed out of the Knox College window, exclaiming as he went, now he had finally passed through college. I have to say I learned that story from Doug Wilson, which is why I asked permission. In 2008, Wilson and Davis published an updated, annotated transcript of the Lincoln-Douglas debates, using the best evidence from 1858 newspaper accounts to establish what Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas actually said. This masterpiece of scholarship was published on the 150th anniversary of the Lincoln-Douglas debates, 1 year before the 200th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Tonight's program, the Lincoln-Douglas debates, is part of the Bernard and Irene Schwartz Distinguished Speakers Series, as you heard from the president of the Historical Society, Louise Mirror. May I now present to you the men who pass through Knox College every day, distinguished scholars who gave Lincoln a home there. Professors Rodney O. Davis and Douglas L. Wilson. Douglas Wilson will speak first. Gentlemen.
My colleague and I thought we needed to explain just a little bit about our edition, which is the reason that we're here. But we are here not just to talk about our edition. We'll lay a groundwork here, and we would like to have a conversation about whatever it is that you're interested in Lincoln and Douglas. After his senatorial campaign against Stephen A. Douglas in 1858, Abraham Lincoln compiled a scrapbook of the principal speeches of the contest, the highlight of which was the 7 joint debates, as they were called. For his own speeches, he included the text printed in the Chicago Press and Tribune. For Douglas's speeches, the text published by the Chicago Times. This, he explained to a prospective publisher, would represent each of us as reported by his own friends, and thus be mutual and fair. The first few proposals to publish the contents of his scrapbook came to naught, but Lincoln's wish to see them in print eventually bore fruit. The printing of the speeches was finally undertaken by the Ohio Republican Party, and the resulting volume, printed directly from Lincoln's scrapbook, appeared just in time for the Republican Presidential Nominating Convention in May of 1860. This text was the basis of all subsequent editions of the Lincoln-Douglas debates except one, the edition produced in 1993 by Harold Holzer, which featured the texts of the speeches printed in the opposing or unfriendly paper. As the first editor of the debates, Lincoln did more than merely cut out clippings of speeches and paste them into his scrapbook. In the first debate,